Hello, welcome to the Diablo 3 podcast. We are online at DiabloIncGamers.com. I am your notoriously sarcastic host, Flux. I'm joined on the show by Neinball.
Oh, hi.
And by Wolfpaq.
Hello.
First time, long time for Wolfpaq. Second time, long time, something like that. And we are talking about Blizzcon 2013. It took place last weekend, which seems like yesterday, and in fact was yesterday for Neinball, given your flight time back home.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about what we saw at the show and what we liked and didn't like, and obviously mostly the Diablo 3 demo, Reaper of Souls, and the Crusader and Nephalem Rifts and Adventure Mode and all kinds of cool stuff, and some general things about the show and convention. And we'll start off by asking both of you, have you been to past BlizzCons, and how did this one compare? And why don't you start us off on that, Wolfpaq?
Yeah, I've been to one other BlizzCon. I went in 2011, and I thought this one was better because there's more games and more variety is more exciting, and I didn't have to wait in a super long line to play Diablo, which was pretty awesome as well. So yeah, I love this one. I had a great time.
And you've been to lots of BlizzCons, Neinball. How did this one stack up?
Yeah, I've been to all but the first one. I have to say that this was probably my favorite by a long shot.
Well, you met me, so how could it not have been?
Exactly. That was one of the highlights of my time.
And you scored with that cute cosplay sorceress. Oh wait, your wife listens. So, what else did you do at the show?
Let's see. I spent some time playing the demos. I went to a couple of the panels, but because of the virtual tickets included, I decided that I can actually skip the panels and come back to them later. So I spent a lot of the time on the show floor actually hunting down developers to go and chat with them.
And you were successful. We'll save that story for a little later, but you talked to a few guys.
Yep.
And how much of you guys' time did you spend on Reaper of Souls demo or Diablo 3 panels, or did you look at a lot of other games as well? The Blizzota, as I think of it, DOTA. What are they calling it now? Heroes of Westmarch or something?
Yeah, that would be awesome. Heroes of Westmarch. That's the expansion for the game that hasn't come out yet.
HOTS, Heart of the Swarm.
Yeah,
There you go.
That's something different. No, there was no StarCraft this year.
Oh, right.
I think I saw more StarCraft Ghosts than StarCraft this year. She made the demo. That was the biggest cheer of the opening ceremonies, and they showed the little cinematic, the 2-minute cinematic for their Heroes of Lord of the Legends, whatever it's called.
Yes.
And it was like fighting, and Diablo was like on a sparkle pony, and Kerrigan's wings are aerodynamically inefficient, and yet she can fly.
A wizard.
The Tyrael's got like glowing. Yeah, Tyrael's got like glowing squid legs, and you can fly. So why not, right?
Yeah, why not?
It's all fair.
But yeah, so opening ceremonies. You guys are more fans of other Blizzard games. You're not just Diablo fans like myself. I'm an evil. I don't care about anything else in the world. Okay, except for this. But you watch other games. Did you have expectations and hopes? They did announce a World of Warcraft a new expansion pack, right? Do you still play WoW, Neinball?
Yeah, I still play WoW. But to be honest, I mean, with Heroes of the Swarm or Heroes of the Swarm, I'm already doing it. Heroes of the Storm did, of course. That stole a lot of thunder, just from everything. And that, I think, is going to be what most of the people are talking about outside of just the sheer awesomeness that was Reaper of Souls during the conference. So even though I do still play WoW and I intend on getting the expansion, I literally watched almost nothing of it.
They had a demo, right, for WoW there? Was the expansion playable? I honestly don't even know.
Yeah, it was playable, and that line was empty almost the entire time. It's like during the entire convention, you could literally just walk straight up and play, and they wouldn't even kick you off. A couple of my friends played it, during the middle of Saturday, and you could just sit there and play because it didn't have a time limit. Normally, what it is just the moderators keep track of every group that they take out to the stations, and after the 20 minutes they tell you, okay, your demo's over. And because of that, and there was never a line, you could sit and play for about as long as you wanted.
So it's like being at home but with really cold air conditioning.
Yeah.
Yes.
Saturday was like freezing, right? I mean, obviously people who didn't go are like they're complaining about the air conditioning, but it was freaking cold Saturday. I don't know.
Well, especially over because no one was over in the Diablo section, and it was in this like corner of the warehouse, and the AC was turned up all the way. I was freezing, but it didn't matter because Diablo.
Exactly. The fires of hell kept you warm.
That's right.
Reminds me of my first wife. But So, Indy, did you check out any of the panels for the Blizzard other games or Diablo 3 or?
I I didn't really check out much in the way of panels. I tried to spend most of my time playing the games because that's really what I go for. I did go to the Diablo panel where they talked about the Crusader, and that was pretty cool. But other than that, I skipped the opening ceremonies and I was just playing the games.
So the big controversy of that panel was shouty, excited developer guy. Do you have a take on that? Did you like it? Did you think it was up tempo, or did you feel like it was Monday Night Football?
I liked it. I don't have high expectations for them, so I thought it was pretty cool that he was getting super excited.
Do you like Monday Night Football?
No.
Well, there you go. Okay, how about your panel attendance, Neinball?
The only panels that I actually went to were all Diablo panels. I caught the preview panel, the cinematics panel, and the first half of the lore panel. And I missed the the Systems and Crusaders panel for it, but I didn't. Even though I played Heroes of the Storm, not Swarm, Storm, a couple of times, and that was actually a lot of fun. Though I didn't go to any of its panels, I still have to go through and catch up with that through the virtual ticket.
Are you going to get kicked out of your WoW guild here? You go to BlizzCon, you don't play WoW, you don't go to WoW panels.
Well, I'm the guild leader, so they'll have a hard time doing that.
They'll just all leave you.
That's fine.
You'll be alone.
I'll have Diablo.
You'll have to multi-box 9 machines to get enough healers and paladins and whatever else they have in that game going.
That would fit with my name, so that would be poetic.
So speaking of being alone, did you guys hear the announcer at the very end when talking about Heroes of the Storm and
Swarm?
No, Storm. And so she was like, "Well, if you don't have any friends, you can play with the AI."
I missed that.
Oh my gosh. I could not stop
Well, that's
laughing.
how Hearthstone works.
It was right before the end of it was right before the Blink-182 concert started. And yeah, it was a good.
Oh, speaking of Blink-182, what was your favorite part of the concert?
The
The part where you didn't go?
No, I went.
Yes.
I was just a little. I don't know.
Did you? Congrats.
I expected more.
Neinball, could you name a single Blink-182 song to save your life?
I actually had to think about that. I did like them when I was in high school 13 years ago, but that was I can't remember anything that they did.
I honestly could not name a song. I have no opinion. I'm not saying they suck. I literally have no opinion. I don't know that they exist. I know they're kind of like Green Day, but they're not Green Day. That's the extent of my knowledge. But you liked it, Wolfpaq.
No, I liked them in high school too.
It was awesome. You thought they were so great, and you're glad they had them as a closing act.
I wish I missed the Foo Fighters. That was the one thing that was way better last time. The Foo Fighters were amazing at the end of 2011.
Hey, don't sleep on Jack Black and his little onstage comedy act. I kind of like Tenacious D, but I didn't go to see that anyway.
I like Tenacious D. That was, I think, the last concert that I actually stayed for.
Ozzy. No?
No, he was going to die on stage from the looks of it.
The last couple of years when I was there in the press room, they play the concert. They have so the press room is this big long room where there's two tables. The room's got, I don't know, 30 by 60 feet, and like the back 20 feet of it is sort of curtained off a little bit, and that's where they serve the food and stuff. And that's where you can find the Diablo 3 developers grazing in their natural habitat quite often. And so they have like two long rows of tables. Each table sits like 8 people, and there's 2 rows and an aisle down the middle, and you're all facing the front. And they have, I don't know, 8 or 10 big screen TVs set up in the room all along each side of it. It's kind of like something out of 1984, where like mandatory compliance with the television. There's no off switch, there's no mute switch. You will watch the television, you will hear the television, and that's good because they show the direct TV feed, and they'll have like they have. I mean, I saw both Diablo panels, the ones I didn't attend, I saw up there, and
nice
other stuff. And it's not so great when they have like StarCraft Live games and you don't care. You're trying to work on stuff, and there's some guy streaming about the Zerg Rush, but they always play the concert, and it's always about 45 decibels louder than you want it to be.
Mm-hmm.
And like you're already tired. It's the last day of BlizzCon, and you've had like 17 Pepsis, and you're trying to concentrate and get some writing done or something, and then it's like, screaming. So this year I didn't enjoy that this year. I was out on the show floor playing Reaper of Souls for like the last 6 hours of the night, but generally that's a slice of life from the press room, and aside from the constant free food and drinks, I guess that makes up for the lack of not noise. So for you commoners who are down on the show floor like you guys, how did you spend your? Oh, sorry, did I say that out loud?
Oops.
So yeah, so I guess we had it. So any other general thoughts on the show? We're going to get into developer interactions later on, but we want to get to the Reaper of Souls commentary. So any other general thoughts or people who have never gone to BlizzCon, what are they missing? And should they go?
They definitely should go if you can, go and try and get a ticket, or as you could see on the BlizzCon forums, or even just on the Craigslist in that area, people were selling tickets at the door for less than the actual cost, $175. They were just trying to get rid of them. I saw a bunch for like $100 or $90, including the goodie bag, because they had people that canceled on them at the last minute. So. I mean, even if you don't snag a ticket to begin with, there's a pretty good chance that if you go out there, you could get one. And just, there's always, obviously, we're talking about a lot of the panels, and we'll get into the developers in a little bit. But, the people that make the games that you like to play are just walking around the convention, and they will stop and answer almost any question that you have.
What do you think, Wolfpaq?
Yeah, I'd recommend going if you can make it. It's a lot of fun, and this year was better than last year. And it's so great that they have 5 games now that are going to be there every time. So, yeah,
Well, 4 games plus StarCraft, but
all right.
Yeah. Well,
you live in the LA area, Wolfpaq, so you just drive over there, right?
Yeah. I just woke up in the morning, drove over.
Yeah, Neinball lives in Orlando, so it's a little more of a challenge for him to.
But
you notice that he lives and goes to BlizzCon within several minutes of the Rat.
Orlando is actually about 3 hours away from me, but I get what you're trying to say.
Well, that's because you moved, but you're still near the Rat.
Yes, the Rat.
The Rat. Yes, that's Disneyland for those of you who are wondering.
Mm-hmm.
But the best thing about it, you get to see fireworks when you leave BlizzCon every night. Like at 9 o'clock, they have fireworks every night at Disneyland, and I'm walking out toward the parking garage both nights. And I'm like, oh look, pretty fireworks.
Yeah.
Made it very exciting.
Mm-hmm.
That or the WoW cosplayer and the succubus costume ahead of me, but one of the two.
I guess the only other thing that to just probably follow up with that is like what Wolfpaq was saying with them having 5 games. Next year, I don't know how they're going to keep it at 2 days because Hearthstone is still in its beta. Heroes of the Storm just is just being announced, and they have tons more that they're going to share and talk about. That I don't know how they're going to keep it at 2 days. Yeah, it felt like you were joking. StarCraft had one panel and then WCS, and there wasn't anything to talk about it because Heart of the Swarm just came out. They don't want to say anything about Legacy of the Void, the next expansion. But next year when they start going through and gearing that up, they're not going to be able to fit all those panels into 2 days.
And they're going to have the World of Warcraft movie coming up closer too. So this year they just had a panel with the director just sitting up on stage talking about things. We're going to have orcs. They're going to be like real people.
Yeah.
It's great.
I went to that
and
panel.
They're going to have like visuals and stuff next time. So that'll probably be a whole big thing.
Yeah.
I was a friend of mine was telling me about that panel. I was really disappointed because they didn't show the it's not like the teaser, but it's like the concept clip that they showed at San Diego Comic-Con. You
went to that panel, Wolfpaq?
Yeah, I mean, I was expecting something other than just guys sitting there talking at me, so it was kind of disappointing. Because a Warcraft movie is something those of us who are fans of the series have wanted for a really long time, and so.
Are you a fan of the series?
Yeah, I played the heck out of Warcraft 2 and 3, and then I played a lot of WoW, even though I'm not currently playing it, but I did play it a lot, and so yeah, I'm looking forward to the movie. Hopefully it's good.
Well, there's a long history of video game adaptations turning out really well, so I don't think there's any reason to worry.
Yeah.
Good point.
We might have another Dungeons and Dragons.
I mean, just look at Yui Bull's resume. You'll see tons of great video game adaptations.
Yeah, I thought he was pretty good on stage. That leather jacket he had looked nice. Oh wait, is someone different? Okay, good. Okay, I think we've beaten that horse to death. But I have to limit to Wyatt's expectations of me, so we'll get to that later. But so Diablo 3, Reaper of Souls. There was a demo available, and we all played it like 2/3 of our time in the show, I think.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
How much Diablo 3 Classic, Vanilla, whatever you call it, have you guys played since you got back from BlizzCon? Okay, short answer: yes, no, or auction house only.
No.
Auction house only.
My answer is no. If there was adventure mode currently available in the Diablo 3 version that we're playing, how much would you have played so far since you got back?
Non-stop, no work.
I would not be on this podcast right now.
Yeah, that's pretty right.
I probably wouldn't have played it because I've been super, super busy, but I would really have had temptations because Adventure Mode was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So why don't you tell us why Adventure Mode was awesome, Wolfpaq?
Well, I'm gonna skip just straight to my absolute favorite part, and which was the Nephalem Rift. Just completely random monsters, completely random environments. It's like it's the endless dungeon everyone's been asking for, even if it does end at 10 levels. And the like, even though we were in normal mode, the monster density I saw was like challenging the highest monster density I've seen in any of the areas in the game. Sometimes, and sometimes it's not, and the variety is fantastic. I mean, what are those guys with the dual wielding the big clubs that are huge and fat in Act 3? I can't remember.
The Golgors, Smolgors.
Yeah, Golgors.
Yeah.
I mean, I kept running into like herds of them. Like 15 of them would fill the screen up with just like I don't know. It's just incredible. It's because you never see that in Act 3. There are always like one or two of them. Even when there's a group, a boss group, there's like 5 at the most. So they're really proving to me from what I saw that they're willing to go nuts. And the shrines were super fun. I'm sure we'll talk about that more later. But with the 400% enhanced damage, or the invulnerability, or the lightning just shooting off at you randomly. Gosh, it was incredible. And to be and so this is how I played. I would start the game. I would spend like hopefully no more than 5 minutes trying to bump my DPS up like 500 so that I could just wipe through things in the Nephalem Rifts by farming the bosses for the guaranteed legendary drop, and then I would run straight to the Rift and just experience the crazy environments that Diablo has with random monsters. And so yeah, I'm sure there's a lot more we could go on from there, but that was easily the highlight for me.
Okay, same question to you, Neinball, in 1 second. But one thing that's funny, you mentioned the variety. I did probably 10 Nephalem Rifts. I don't think I ever saw a single Golgor in any of them. And it's funny, like that was your biggest takeaway was like Golgor.
That's so many.
And I didn't see a goddamn one of them. So it's obviously that's just a testament to the most interesting one I had, as I bogarted this conversation before letting Neinball in, was I did one with a demon hunter. I played mostly Crusader, but I did try all the other classes except for barbarians because why? And the first level I got was the docks, what's it called, Wortham.
Wortham.
Where you cross, where you cross the ferry, and that was one level all the way up to the Spider Caves entrance. There was no entrance into the church. That was the first level of the Nephalem Rift, which was really cool. I thought just fighting monsters going over that bridge and stuff. Where ordinarily you just run along. And I got like a mixed bag of weird crap there. I got a cultist that kind of looked like it belonged, and I got like scorpions or something. And I got a single group of of champion mallet lords, those Act 4 dudes with the giant long legs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just one pack of 5 of those, no other singles on the whole level. And they were like right when you leave the little town past the church part, that little gateway, before you go up to the bridge.
Right.
And they were like this huge like clump of them. They're like 25 feet tall, right? And they're all up on the left side of this, on the bridge. And I'm playing Demon Hunters were hella weak in this demo.
Yeah.
This is like the first area I did. I started the game and I wasn't smart like Wolfpaq just said and farmed up some legends and stuff, farmed up some legendaries and weapons. I just went into it. And I was barely able to kill like the regular stuff. I come to this part and there's 5 freaking, and they were extra fast and molten. I was like, oh, this is just, oh my god. So I was doing laps around the town. This is that roundabout thing. And just dropping, caltrap, vault, rapid fire, caltrap, vault, rapid fire, just repeatedly. And I would get like 2 and go back and get another one and go back and get another one. So yeah, you just get these wildly weird varieties of things, and especially with weak characters, can be super scary. But they were awesome. I did tons of those. So what was your Nephalem Rift and Adventure Mode story, Neinball?
Mine, I think I showed we were when we were playing together that I had to go over and show you what was going on my screen because I actually encountered the
spoilers.
Yeah,
spoilers.
You don't want me to say?
No, I guess we should say I didn't include it in the guys. I just posted another hands-on report from a guy who mentioned it. So.
Okay, so yeah, as I came across the Hell Bovine, they actually are one of the things that you can encounter in the Nephalem Rifts, and that was freaking amazing. It was awesome. And were they mixed in with other monsters, or were they just them on the whole level? There were no other monsters on that level when I was doing it. It was literally just the Hell Bovine, and it was the caves. It wasn't anything special. It wasn't like a Moo Moo farm or anything like that. And the other thing that I noticed was that there's actually an elite down there called the
Cow Princess.
The Cow Princess, yes, heir to the throne.
Should be heifer to the throne. One of the screenshots shows shows a Nephalem Rift level that's the Whimsyshire. So
Yeah.
I suppose at some point you might get Whimsyshire with cows in it, just to be like, oh my god, oh my god. But that would of course be incredibly rare and random, and that's the whole point in playing it. So anything to add to our exaltations on that Neinball? It's random and it's really cool, and you never know what you're gonna get.
Yeah, it really is. I was surprised to see when I got put into Wortham, because I thought it was just going to be dungeons, regular dungeon tile sets, but they also do like the Fields of Misery, Wortham, and I can only imagine that I wouldn't be surprised to see the Desolate Sands or some of the other places that almost every single tile set in the entire game is going to be put in there.
And as they mentioned at the show, they could be from 1 to 10 levels. I got ones, I finished like 4 of them, and they were 5, 5, 4, and I had a 2-level one, which was really unpleasant. I had a couple of 2-level ones. One of them was really unpleasant. Do you remember how deep yours were, Wolfpaq? And did you actually finish any and get to the transportation stone at the end of it?
I never got all the way down because I stopped when the boss spawned. But the further I got to level 6 in one of mine, because I just kept finding the next level down before I got enough monsters to spawn the boss. So I just took it. I figured there's no point in hanging around. I didn't realize there was a stone waiting for you at the end, at the bottom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did a bunch before I said, what's down here? I got to keep going. I'm just curious. And in theory, you can finish it and start a new one. I finished 2 of them, and the first one, it was bugged. It wouldn't let me start a new one. I was just standing in town. It would, I just kept going into the same one. And I did finish another one late on Saturday, and it actually let me start a new one. Obviously, I didn't have time to do it, but it opened up a new rift, and I went into level 1 of it. It was uncleared yet, so. But of course, it uses one of your keystones or whatever they're called.
Right, but
it's funny. Ellie was looking at your article we posted earlier, and she keeps saying, "What does he mean by this? What's a Nephalem rune?" I'm like, I think he means the keystone. So this,
probably
you use like 4 different nouns to describe this object, and I'm not even sure what it's called either. So I'm not even.
I wasn't.
I think it's
notes.
just I think it's just Rift Keystone is what it's called.
Yeah. So that's what you need. You had 10 of those to start with, and there was already an open rift. So obviously this is the demo version of pre-made characters and stuff. But
yeah.
In the actual game, you will need to find more. Did you ever see one of those drop either of you guys?
I finished the bounty.
Yeah, I never saw any of them drop, but you got one every time you completed a bounty. I don't know if that's, obviously we can't say whether that's going to carry over into the actual game, but it probably is going to be the incentive for wanting you to going and doing, the bounties, instead of just going and killing bosses, like Wolfpaq was saying, was the better loot was just going and killing the bosses than it was them doing the bounties, but then they'll if you go and do the bounties as well, you'll be able to get a whole bunch of the keystones, which then allow you to go into the rifts.
Well, that, and also they had, if you were to, the journal key would bring up a list of legendaries that you could supposedly get from doing the bounties. Although I did the bounty like 3 times, all the way through all 5 of them, and I never got a legendary. So I said, all right, forget this.
Yeah,
Just kill bosses.
In one of my playthroughs, I probably, in total across all of my plays, I want to say that I maybe did 25 bounties, or it'd be about 5 sets of complete bounties, and I got 1 legendary.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I got a legendary rewarded from one of them. It was actually the first time that I went and played through and completed my first bounty and thought, oh, okay, so you're gonna have a decent chance of getting a legendary with this, or your guaranteed chance. And then every subsequent one from there, I never got anything.
All right, well, I guess I should have given it more of a shot then. But I mean, they were dropping for sure from the bosses. So, and I was really excited about finally having a great source of legendaries, even if it's not going to continue, into the full game.
I only did the complete bounties once. I mostly was just skimming the really quick, easy ones. You look for a purple one in a small area, like in like the cemetery in Act 1 or something, and you'd go there and it would have a little icon on which of the tombs he was in, and you'd go down and kill Digger Odell or whatever, and you'd just get a really quick bounty that way. But as you guys are saying, there were 5 bounties randomly selected per act, and if you did all 5 of those, you could go back to town and talk to Tyrael, and he would give you, then you'd get a special reward. And that's where you would get a Nephalem Rift Hearthstone Key Rune Beta thing.
Yep.
As Wolfpaq said.
Yep.
All of the above. And you would get, I got a big stack of reagents when I did it. I'm not even sure what the crafting materials are now, because there's like 1 crafting material. It's no longer the system where there's where they're different on each difficulty level.
Right.
So there's like 1 thing, and apparently you just get larger quantities from higher level items. I'm not sure how that's going to work, but I guess we'll find out.
Well, and none of the craftsmen or artisans, whatever, would talk to us. They were disabled, so we couldn't exactly test that.
They weren't disabled, they were differently abled.
Different, yeah, they're special.
Yeah, they were just a little slow this time. Yeah, they were just turned off.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you couldn't unsocket anything or make stuff with Hadrig or tell him that you just killed his wife
Yeah,
again.
you couldn't even chat with them.
Yeah, they didn't like us at all. But you could talk to the followers, but you couldn't hire them either. They would just talk a little bit.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I guess we should clarify if people haven't read all the articles about. You know what? Just go read the articles. We posted. I did a whole article about adventure mode and Nephalem Rifts, and I'm sure you can see Blizzard's pages about it and give you the basic sense. I don't know if we want to burn precious podcast time explaining features that they can read about elsewhere. Say yes.
Yes.
People having to read.
Yeah, they don't want that. That's why they're on the internet. So they're listening to this while they sit on the bus or try to get to school or something. So obviously we all loved the adventure mode of Nephalem Rifts, and it's very open world, and I could see playing just lots and lots of that. It was so quick to get to them, and of course we were just doing it with the excitement of the newness of it and just exploring and stuff, and not looking for, as Wolfpaq said, skimming for legendaries. I can't imagine they're going to have that fast of a drop rate in the final. They're going to turn that down a little bit. They tend to buff stuff up for demos, so it's fun.
Yeah.
I also think
Like the Crusader was like totally overpowered, but we'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, go ahead, Wolfpaq.
they told us that they were considering giving a guaranteed legendary when you first kill a boss, right? I think that I've heard something like that instead of
That's what it was.
Yeah,
Yes.
that was something that they mentioned at Gamescom, though I didn't really hear that at BlizzCon. And even
No,
every time
me neither.
that you killed the first Death Maiden, she did drop a legendary, but the second one didn't.
Yeah, well, I assumed that it would,
In campaign mode, you mean?
In
Story
campaign mode, yeah.
because every time you leave the game, it did a full hard reset on your character back to 33, all stash cleared and everything. So I assumed that bit that says, "Oh, you haven't killed the boss yet," just got turned back on. And so then when you killed the boss again, when you started the game again, you had a chance to get all new legendaries.
And you exploited that ruthlessly.
Oh, absolutely. There was a point in time where I was killing, because I'm most familiar with Acts 1, 2, and 3. Total, there's 10 bosses in there, so I was making sure to get 10 legendaries every run, and it was great.
And you didn't find as many legendaries as that Wolfpaq. I mean, the other person, Neinball.
Yeah, no, not quite as many.
But you found some. Were they shiny?
Oh yeah, definitely. There were some really nice ones. I remember I was playing through a monk, and I just had a legendary drop as I was killing mobs. It was a two-handed sword that made all of your melee attacks have a 40-yard range. So, and that worked really weird because I was using Way of the Hundred Fists. And then once I got it, I switched over to Thunderclap, and that would actually, the first strike would teleport you. And so even though it already has a basic little teleport built into it, this is it has like I could melee a mob on the other side of the screen. I would port over to it instantly. It was pretty interesting, the dynamics that made.
And these were only level, 1 through 33 legendaries.
Yeah.
One thing they said that I was surprised to hear at the show is, on the console, people can find, at least they could. I'm not sure if that's still in the game. They might have patched it, but you could find like level 60 legendaries that were scaled down to level 25 or whatever if you were, when you were level 25.
Mm-hmm.
And that's no longer in D3, in Diablo 3, Reaper of Shadows, Raper of Seals. I always forget what it's called. Now all you can do is find legendaries that scale up. So you'll never find like, a Wind Force or whatever at level 25, but you might find the level 25 stuff at level 60 but scaled up to match. So we were finding all these weird legendaries. I wasn't even sure if they were new or if I just never seen them before, because you never see the level 18 and 20 legendaries in the game. So
Right.
like half of them, I'm like I think I've seen this before, like looking on a website sometime, but it's not Diablo 2 where you see all the low level ones all the time. But I don't think there were anything. I don't believe there were anything new. They were just scaled to your level. Yes.
It's
Wolfpaq's like, I don't know.
I have no idea. I'd never found any of these. A lot of them were
Yeah.
new, for sure.
There-
A lot of them were new.
There was some like the what is it? The Bartertown shoulder pads. Those I believe
I found that at least once.
Yeah, those are in the game. But I don't think that the two-handed sword, that looked like an all-new model. I could of course be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure that one was not yet that one hadn't never been in the game before.
Yeah, I found 2 rings that had identical effects, one for poison and one for fire, and it was prevents all damage you take from that element and heals you for that amount. And also doubles the damage of that element, and I don't think that would make sense in the current game.
Yeah.
And I also found Thunder Fury a few times, though, at the WoW remake, and
Yeah.
that's got to be one of my favorite legendaries of the thing, because it was a super high chance every attack to proc a chain lightning that also slowed enemy movement speed. And so yeah, I just kept on spamming that hammer that I think is called Justice, that splits, and out of any one of the splits or multiple of the splits in some cases, chain lightning just go flying out and hit tons of enemies. It was great.
Okay, so that's our segue into the Crusader. So we knew about the Crusader going in, and we'd seen videos of him and stuff. Obviously, none of us have played him before, though. So what was your Crusader impressions, and how did you think he played Neinball?
He played amazing, and like we've kind of alluded to beforehand, felt very overpowered. But I just kind of sat and looked at all of them. He was for the demo itself. He was kind of made to be overpowered. Some of the skills were broken, doing like 1,500 weapon damage over 5 seconds was the Divine Ray. That just one shot elite packs, and he started off with a what was it? It was like a 60 DPS weapon when all the other classes only started off with a 30 or 29 DPS weapon. So he was really set up to just be more powerful than anything else. To just he's new, he's shiny. We want you to go and have fun, and it really felt like they were focusing people in to try and play that character.
So do you think that he's Josh's favorite character, whereas Jay Wilson's was the Barbarian, with obvious results?
Almost everyone that I talked to is like over at the blue booth. A lot of the CMs like Nevelistus and Lilira, they were all talking about how the Crusader is the best one to play, or Don Vu, one of the associate game designers, who's actually like pseudo, and he's they don't have the actual title of you're this class designer, but he worked primarily on the monk and the wizard, and he absolutely loved playing the Crusader. It was it seems to be that everyone just likes playing it.
Well, Neinball with a slew of name dropping there of impressive status.
Yeah.
What did you think of the Crusader, Wolfpaq?
Yeah, he was awesome. That Heaven's Fury is by far the most overpowered skill I've ever used in Diablo 3, and it was incredibly fun. I mean, all blues, level 33, you just walk into Gom, who's the closest boss to a waypoint, and you just drop it on him, and then a couple Heaven's Fury, Fists of the Heavens, and he's dead. Less than 3 seconds, literally, or 5 seconds.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. But I mean, of course, that's fun, right? When you get that powerful, and so yeah, and the horse skill, I thought it was. I don't remember the name of it, so I'm going to call it Summon a Horse. You just
Steed Charge. We've been calling it Tempest Horse.
Or Fire Horse.
It's officially called Steed Charge, and the rune effect was called Blazing Steed.
It was awesome. I think it's one of the best movement skills in the game in terms of getting from one point to the other. Because I was playing back and forth with a.
So it's the best movement skill for getting from one point to another.
Yeah,
huh?
well,
that'll come in handy.
Like the wizard's teleport, right? I played the wizard like 3 or 4 times, and Crusader all the other times, except for once I was messing around with a monk, who, by the way, had a 4,777 weapon damage strike, which kind of did ludicrous things when you got a better than 25 DPS weapon, which took some effort. But anyways, the point is, the wizard, I had wormhole teleport by default. It was your travel skill, and I think that the Steed beats wormhole teleport in terms of getting from A to B. They have very similar cooldowns, but you just move so quick, and it's a lot easier to use too. Like wormhole, it's kind of hard to tell what's ahead, and you might end up like teleporting into a wall, or on the stairwells that are curved, it's almost impossible to teleport down them properly. But the Steed, you move, you're moving super fast. So that was the Steed and the Heaven's Fury, I'd say, were the highlights for me from the Crusader. Oh, and the one other thing was that Justice attack. It was super weak attack. You threw it out to generate Wrath, and it would split and hit 3 monsters. But if you had legendaries like Thunder Fury, or I forget the name of the amulet I got, but it created a vortex effect, on a chance on hit to create a vortex effect. So I would just, throw 3 max Justices, 9 hits, and it would proc, pull all the enemies together, which is perfect for just landing a Fist of the Heavens on them. So the Crusader was awesome. The new legendaries were awesome. I can't wait to see what more they have in store for us.
Did you ever get the horse and one of the fleeting shrines?
No, I don't think so. I don't remember.
The new super speed shrine.
Oh yeah, the Nephalem Rifts. I never, I had the worst luck trying to find those super shrines inside the rifts themselves, but I did find the fleeting rift as I was around doing the adventure mode, collecting bounties, and that is just ridiculous because it stacks with itself.
And you're very, very fast.
Yes, incredibly fast.
Neinball, I mean, the other person, Wolfpaq was mentioning Heaven's Fury, which was one of your Seer Conviction one. It's funny because Falling Sword looked like the coolest skill in the game when they showed it in the demo. Like, you leap up in the air and you come down as this explosion. Like you become the artillery shell, was that what they said in the panel.
Yeah.
And that was the default, and that was awesome. And then you tried Heaven's Fury, and it was like 10 times better. It was like, oh my god.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, if you looked at the description of it, the rune effect was called Blessed Ground, and the description said God Ray, I can't read my own writing. Something the ground for 1500% weapon damage. So obviously it used to be called God Ray, and they'd recently changed it to Heaven's Fury and hadn't updated the text in the tooltip, which I liked. But it would create this little, like a Star Trek transporter beam kind of thing that would kind of stay where it was, or else it would chase monsters around in close range. And as you mentioned, it would cook Gom in like 4 seconds, which really smells bad, by the way.
Oh yeah.
I used that on Magda. It was my funny example of it. And I use it when she, after like, when you fight Magda, you can hit her a few times, and once you do a quarter of her damage, she puts up her shield and then summons 3 little dudes or 4 little dudes, and you got to kill them, and then she unshields, etc. Right?
Yeah.
And so I use that skill halfway through the battle. It killed Magda. It killed the 3 little dudes. She unshielded. It killed her. Hit her again to the next quarter. She unshielded, put out the 4 dudes. It killed them, and she unshielded, and it killed her for the final time with one cast of this spell. Well, I just stood there watching, and that was in like 6 seconds. So I mean, it was just like click, 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 click. Hey, I won, and there's my bounty. So
Yep.
that kind of gives you a sense of how crazy.
And you're guaranteed legendary.
Yeah, exactly. Well, other than that, it wasn't very good though.
Right.
It just killed everything in sight instantaneously and gave you a legendary for sure. But
Other than that.
Not overpowered at all.
no, yeah. And so there was, but as you said, the Crusader was a little overpowered. Once you got a few weapon upgrades, you were just crazy strong in this game.
Yeah.
And what's funny, otherwise, like Fist of Heavens was an awesome skill. I mean, it could call down this blast, and it shot all these little sparks out in different directions, and just, basically just cleared any AOE group.
That was one of the things I noticed, that even though they went and said that the Crusader won't have the melee damage reduction that the Monk and the Barbarian have, which kind of makes sense because they're already very, very defensive. They don't really need it. But the Crusader, I found, played a lot more fulfilling when you played him as a range character. It could also be just because you didn't have any movement speed on the boots, so unless you found some, so it felt a lot slower than all the characters that I play on live, because I always try and make sure that I have max movement speed. And so just being able to go through and blast everything with Judgment, the ranged hammer skill, and then Fist of the Heavens, you could just play like a caster. You didn't even have to melee anything, and I just found that as a much better play style than the Wrath and Shield Slam. That combination of just using the melee skills.
Yeah, well, that's the lesson of Diablo 3. The more things you can hit at one time, the better, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Crusader was pretty strong early on. You didn't need to spend a lot of time. He generates wrath on its own. It's not like the Monk, where you don't generate anything unless you hit stuff, unless you have equipment for it. But but as we said, he was overpowered. So I mean, it's hard to extrapolate too much from this demo.
It's kind of like a combination of what is it, like the Wizard and the Monk, because a lot of your skills ate up a large portion of your your total resources, because you only had at max, I believe it was 100 of the Wrath, but your attacks didn't really generate that much, but it also filled up at, I think, 2.5 per second, so it was really, really quick, just recovering on its own between packs.
Yep. And if you were like me, you weren't really killing the trash mobs anyway. You're just running until you get
to the bounties.
To the bounty or the boss, and then kill that. So you have plenty of time for your wrath to fill up. I tried that talent that lets you hold a two-hander in one hand. I couldn't stand the movement speed reduction. Honestly, I took it off immediately, even though I had a great two-hander, and the whole blocking will give me wrath, but I couldn't take it. I think it'll be a really powerful skill once you can have like Paragon points and max movement speed from your gear and stuff, but when you're already moving at a really slow speed, it's just I couldn't handle it.
Yeah, that was actually one of the things that I know we're going to talk about some of the things that we talked with the developers about, but that was something that I had asked Wyatt Chang during story time, and he had said that even though it says max movement speed, it does also affect your current movement speed, and he wasn't sure. They hadn't actually made a determination of whether they wanted you to be able to gear above it. Like if you geared for 35% movement speed, you could get above the limitations of the talent.
Yeah, so there's a passive skill for the Crusader that allows you to wield a two-handed weapon in one hand and a shield in the other. But the price, as you just said, is movement speed. So you have to decide if you can offset that. I had one game where I found a really good legendary one-handed weapon right at the, sorry, two-handed weapon right at the start. You know, it was doing 97% with a socket or 97 DPS with a socket, something like that. And anyway, it immediately took me up to like 2,400 DPS from like the 600 or whatever I was starting with. And so I used that skill and used it then. And if I use the horse constantly, Tempest Horse, and one of your laws gave you a really good buff to your movement speed for like 5 seconds after you cast it. So I was able to use those two together and it didn't bother me so much when I was just one-shotting everything. But obviously Wolfpaq had a different opinion on that.
Well, the thing I found is that a lot of the skills had long cooldowns. Like the laws, they're active as a 30-second cooldown. So
Yeah.
once you can gear for cooldown reduction, I think it'll be fantastic. But until then, you're spending a lot of like even the horse itself, I think, had a 15-second reduction or cooldown.
15-second cooldown.
Yeah,
Yes.
for a 3-second duration. And I mean, I'm sure there'll be a rune to maybe make it last longer or reduce that cooldown. But still, he wasn't quite as mobile as I would have liked. But
Well, there was nothing would have been as mobile as you would have liked for this demo.
like a
Yeah.
no cooldown teleport would have been fantastic.
Well, that is possible, which you will need to find special items for
Yeah.
in someday. One of the cool things noticed the display of the two laws, which are basically auras or mantras, whatever you want to call them, for other classes. They have no duration anymore. You just cast them and they last forever, but you can only recast it every 30 seconds. It's when you get that special bonus.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of differs from the monk in that the monk you can recast them constantly, but they cost spirit to cast, so that kind of limits it, depending on how much spirit generation you have.
Well,
But the cool thing with the display is it says active, and it gives you whatever they do for the short duration. Then it says passive, and it gives you whatever their longer term is, which is basically how the monks work, But it seemed like it was a clarification of the wording that maybe will help people in some way. And I did check, and the monks are not changed in wording. It doesn't say, active bonus for 3 seconds and then passive for forever.
that is actually how the monks' mantras originally were. They had a very powerful activated ability, which I say very powerful, but I don't think they ever actually changed it. They just kept it as it was, but they found that didn't work out too well, and so that's why they made it with the resource cost, and you can just spam it as much as you want, because they couldn't find the right balance for it. And with the Crusader, I think they're going with a somewhat different direction with it, because the passive effects aren't I couldn't really tell from the demo because it had the basic tooltips on, so you couldn't actually see what it was. But from the data mine information, it looks like their passive effects are, weak compared to the monk's mantras, but then the active effects just blow some of the monk abilities out of the water, with the only possibility of conviction overawe, being about equivalent to what they were.
So you mentioned that the advanced tooltips weren't on. Did you find, like, I was on random machines where like elective mode and advanced tooltips were fully enabled, and then other machines weren't. Is there like a way, I don't know, like an ini file or something you could modify to set that up? Because I don't know of any hotkey that enables elective mode, but I definitely found someone who hadn't figured out a way to enable it, or at least a machine where it was enabled.
Yeah, that I have no idea. None of the ones that I came across actually had any of that hooked up. I guess, I played on a couple of machines and it wasn't on, so I just didn't bother looking on any of the other ones that I played.
Yeah.
Yeah, I found that very vexing, actually, especially playing other characters, because, like you mentioned earlier, Wolfpaq, you said some monk skill had some huge damage display. I'm like, how do you know?
Oh.
I never saw a single advanced tooltip, and it didn't have damage display turned on. So I kept wondering. are these skills better? Are they buffed? What am I doing? Not with the Crusaders so much because I wouldn't have known the difference anyway, right?
Right, but you can hold
But I really missed elective mode and I really missed advanced
you
tooltips.
can hold control and it'll show the advanced tooltips. And I'm pretty sure it does that in game right now also. Like that was how I figured out the monk one.
I just thought they had them turned off entirely, but I missed them terribly. I really missed elective mode because I never.
Me too. Yeah.
I mean, I have my hotkeys on ASDF
Yep.
in the game,
Yep.
and so I can easily hit the shift key. And when I was playing a demon hunter, you had hungering arrow on your left click, and you really can't use hungering arrow very well without holding the shift key.
Not at all.
You want to shoot them off the edge of the screen or just shoot them at a location. And if you're having to target things that are chasing you, it just sucks. It's so much mouse movement, and it's just really inefficient. And I just couldn't reach 1, 2, 3, 4 in shift without a second pinky, which would have come in really handy on their League of Legends game as well.
Yeah.
But I wish I had that one there. But yeah, I'm like, wow, you realize how much you like your own setup when you can actually set the controls how you want
Well,
them.
I can't.
Unless you're like Wolfpaq and you somehow hack the machine.
No, I don't know who set it up, but I don't know.
Sure,
who,
you don't.
Well, okay. So speaking of hacking the machines, there was a. I don't know if we want to talk about this. There was a bug in the demo where changing your character reset the timer. So my plan was every time, like if there was a huge line, I was gonna be sneaky about it and just until the attendants figured it out and kicked me off. But since there was no line, I never had to do that. But going back to.
So you
Wait,
mean
go
you
ahead.
didn't get a chance to play on the press machines where, they didn't kick you off when the time limit was over?
No, I mean sometimes they didn't kick me off anyway because there was no line, and they'd just be like, "Yeah, go ahead, play again, whatever." But most of the times it was nice to get up and stretch my legs anyway. So
And stomp some feeling back into your numb arms and feet
that's right.
in a 45-degree Arctic tundra in there.
But I was going to say back to your earlier point, Flux. I can't believe that 1, 2, 3, and 4 are still like default hotkeys in games where keys like shift and control, you're pressing those all the time when you're playing Diablo, especially now that you can.
Well, not when 1, 2, 3, 4 are the hotkeys you aren't.
Well, yeah, but
You'd like
I
to.
think someone over there would think about it and say, hey, let's make these, because it's not like you use ASD and well, I guess S is default for skills, but I mean that could be rebound to something else. It doesn't have to be S. Also, wait, where was I going with this? Never mind. Go ahead, Flux.
Go ahead. So let's jump to Act 5 and West March. We hadn't seen it before. We've seen videos, but what did you guys think? Was it sufficiently gothic? Well, how was that for a tease? Part 2 of this podcast will be posted tomorrow, and it covers obviously West March and Act 5. We were just leading into there. And we also get back into talking about adventure mode a little more and rift bosses and the Nephalem Rift. It seems like this whole podcast, all roads lead back to adventure mode because we all played a ton of it and we all thought it was just fantastic, and we all wish we were playing it right now if that was in Diablo 3 vanilla, but it's not, so we have to wait. We also talk about surprise or not at the lack of a beta announcement for Reaper of Souls at BlizzCon, and there's a fair amount of discussion of interactions with Diablo 3 developers. Neinball hung around the blue tent a lot and talked to a bunch of guys and got some cool inside info. And I met a bunch of them in the press room and as well as in my private interview I had. And so there's stories about that and sort of general BlizzCon information, and part 2 will be posted quite soon. So I hope you enjoyed this one, and moo.